I'm not sure why standards have fallen so low that we've come to accept boring, half-assed games as flawed masterpieces, or best worst game I've ever played. There's a ton of praise for Deadly Premonition. People became charmed by this small town with its quirky residents, but consider this. Deadly Premonition is not a book. It's not a movie, not a TV show. It's a video game. There's a reasonable expectation for the gameplay to be enjoyable, whatever genre it may be. A shooter, a racing game, even visual novels. Whatever kind of game it is. As long as the main form of interaction is fun, that's what counts. As a video game, Deadly Premonition is a catastrophic disaster. I don't find unpolished, tedious games to be entertaining. I know that this is a low-budget game. Creating an open-world experience with nothing but a couple of pennies and some crayons is ambitious to say the least. But just because it's an ambitious game made on a budget, doesn't excuse the fact that it isn't fun to play. This game is in such a sorry state that fans have created guides highlighting the pros and cons of each version, even outlining how the best way to play the game is to emulate it. How are these ports more broken than the original release from over a decade ago? And here's the thing, it would be so easy to just poke at the poor textures and models, stiff animations, and awful frame rate and dismiss the game, but I'm not gonna do that, because there are so many other issues here. You've got a flashlight that is completely worthless. Every time you grab something, the game needs to pull up a dedicated screen to show you, even for objects you've picked up before. The game has QuickTime events out the ass, but some are actually slow time events, and sometimes it doesn't even matter if you press the button, the game continues on anyway. Every time you gather a piece of evidence, the game gives you a timed button prompt to start profiling, but this is a trap. You can't proceed with the investigation until you gather every piece of evidence in that area, which at that point, you're forced to profile anyway without the timer. When you kill enemies, their corpses take forever to disappear, so you can get stuck on nothing even when the corpse is off the screen. You start with a gun that has infinite ammo, so there goes any hope of this game being challenging right out the gate. Melee weapons are stronger than guns, but they break. The guns don't. Even when you get guns that don't have infinite ammo, you never run out. The game is so easy that you are never incentivized to use melee weapons. The enemies will try to block their heads to prevent headshots, but this does nothing. You still just aim for their heads every single time, and they stagger anyway. The sound design is sloppy. It sounds like I'm running in water just heading down this road. There are parts where you need to hold your breath, but why do I need to keep holding the button down while these two just stand next to a zombie for a full minute doing nothing? The driving... Half of the playtime consists of driving, so you'd think they put some effort into it. The controls are so bad, you fishtail just casually driving on dry asphalt. Collision detection is inconsistent. One moment you can drive through metal poles, the next you're breaking them. You can break some wooden fences, but not others. Even though you can detach a light pole from the ground going 20 miles per hour, you can't drive through hedges even if you floor it. There's no sense of impact from crashes, and there's no visible vehicle damage, just a small meter telling you how much damage you've taken. You need to fill up the car with gas because it gets 2 miles per gallon. Thankfully, at the start of each chapter, you're given a fresh car, so you can just ignore this mechanic. You are forced to drive the speed limit at the start of the game. If you turn on your siren, you can drive a whopping 5 miles per hour faster, but using the siren saps your stamina bar for whatever reason. The game wants you to complete side quests to upgrade the car, and of course these are the worst types of side activities imaginable. Just mindless fetch quests to grab repair parts. How about, instead of making the car a giant piece of shit and forcing you to complete side quests to make it bearable, you just make the car control well right out of the gate. You need to watch this unskippable animation every single time you enter and exit a car, and the other cars will disappear when you exit the car. You can run on top of moving cars, but not stationary ones. If York is talking to himself about some old movie he's seen, the only, and I do mean only, good part of the entire game, and you want to check the map, you will cut him off from finishing his monologue because the menu button is mapped to the button that shuts him up. the map is zoomed in so close that you can't chart a clear route on how to get to your destination. Every mission involves driving across this entire godforsaken map. I didn't even find this out until I beat the game, but there is fast travel. You have to complete a side quest chain to get a radio that lets you warp around the map. But if you wait until after chapter 14, the side quest becomes unavailable, so you need to replay an earlier chapter to unlock it. And why is this essential feature locked behind a side quest? And how does this mean the game is good? So I can skip the driving, the worst part of the game, by fast traveling everywhere instead? Well, okay, what if I want to get to a place that you can't fast travel to? You still need to drive, it's still required for certain missions, you still need to unlock this fast travel ability, so the driving is still a giant part of the game regardless if you can skip parts of it or not. It would make more sense to make the driving enjoyable rather than finding ways to circumvent it. NPCs act robotic. They stand in place going up and down for no reason. They stare off into the void. They stare at walls. When you try to leave the hospital, zombies attack, but nobody says a word about the zombies. This is just an excuse to have some shooting to break up the monotony. I'd read that the shooting was forced into the game to appeal to Western audiences, but can't you at least try to incorporate it in a way that makes sense? This has nothing to do with the plot. The story isn't about zombies at all. You could have put a dancing minigame here, and it would have made just as much sense. From time to time, you review evidence, but these segments are set to a black screen because the devs couldn't be bothered to animate anything aside from showing you off still photos. Some chick drops a note with clues on it to help you get into a locked room, but if she wants to help me out, why not just give me the code? Why give me this puzzle where I need to count trees and paintings? You're helping me out either way, so why waste my time? Shooting people does nothing. Shooting cars does nothing, not even a bullet hole decal. The only thing that happens is you lose some money, a $20 fine for shooting at someone's head. Some missions want you to show up during a certain time frame, and instead of just automatically passing the time, you need to either sleep the hours away, which means leaving your location to find a bed, or smoke cigarettes, which lets you pass the time on the spot. If you smoke, you need to wait for these clock hands to slowly move around until it reaches the time you want. But passing the time causes your sleep and hunger meters to drop, so you need to consume a bunch of garbage from your inventory to top them off. Is sucking down coffee to raise my sleep bar, or munching on 10 lollipops to fill my stomach supposed to be immersive? I walked into a building, nothing complex, nothing involving combat, just trying to load a simple room, and the game crashed. This is like, what, the third port of this piece of shit, and it's still crashing? You can't pause cutscenes. You can only skip them. This is a story-heavy game, and you can't pause cutscenes. Thankfully on the Switch the home button pauses the game, but still, this is a port, not the first release. They had how many years to address these issues and they didn't fix anything. Peeking into a window involves watching a loading screen, and then leaving requires a second loading screen, just to peek into a tiny diner. It takes too long to open the menu just to look at your worthless map, and you can zoom in so laughably close, but you can't zoom out to see the entire area at a glance. Lightning flashes even when I'm inside a house, and not the windows, the entire screen. And these wasps won't go away because I haven't washed my suit, so now I get to deal with this constant annoyance zipping around the screen until I change my suit at a briefcase. You play hide and seek several times throughout the game, where you wait for the killer to slowly, and I mean slowly, make his way around the room. You hide in a closet and watch him walk around, and when he gets close, you hold your breath by pressing the on-screen prompt. You don't even need to determine when you need to hold your breath. The game tells you. QuickTime events are such a waste of time. Developers want to keep players engaged during cutscenes, but they don't know how, so they rely on button prompts, thinking that passes off as engaging gameplay. This is a bare minimum form of interaction. Just leave it out, it adds nothing. You tail a suspect, driving 30 miles per hour for the next 7 minutes, and it's as eventful as you'd expect it to be. I get it, York is doing his job, and jobs aren't always exciting, but this is a game. I should be excited all the time. I don't see the appeal of realism here. In Trauma Center, you don't drive to work, sterilize for an hour, scrub your hands for 5 minutes, and check medical records for allergies. You just perform surgeries. Okay, it's an arcade game, not a life sim, but so what? It cuts out the filler and focuses on the exciting part of the job. If you can't find a way to make a task interesting, don't include it. There's a new enemy introduced with just a single attack pattern and a quicktime event, so it's just as easy to fight as any other enemy. But it takes forever to kill, because you can only shoot it after baiting an attack, otherwise it's invincible. And the game was so proud about introducing its second enemy type after 6 hours that it forces you to fight it 3 times in a row. There are a handful of elementary school level puzzles, like this chess one that tells you the exact order to place the pieces. This puzzle wants you to push statues around, and it takes forever to move them. Here, you press a red button, then you're timed to run 3 feet to the side to press another. Why not place the button at the end of a hall filled with zombies, or do literally anything aside from placing them next to each other? And check out this room. You know this guy is a professional hacker because he has 10 monitors all in a circle showing the exact same screen. Another crazy puzzle where you shoot upside down deer heads to open a door, and they glow just to ensure you don't waste any precious brain power trying to figure out that they're upside down. At this point, the music finally became grating. The game cycles between the same 3 repetitive songs for every cutscene. Thankfully, the goddamn game crashed again. There's a fishing minigame, really in-depth too. You just time a slot reel over and over until you fish out the documents you need to progress the game. And why the hell am I here? York had a hunch that the evidence was tossed into a waterfall, so he uses a fishing rod over and over to fish them out? He's that certain that the documents are in there and that the water didn't seep into the container to destroy them. I was gonna try out the darts minigame, but you need to buy a dart gun to play for whatever godforsaken reason. I guess throwing them with your hand would be too easy. You can buy one from the bar, but my weapon inventory was full, so I couldn't purchase it. It was too much of a hassle to play a simple minigame. Speaking of inventory, once you get the upgraded handgun that also has infinite ammo, you can't store the starter pistol even though you have no reason to ever use it again, so it wastes a weapon slot. But you know what's funny? I looked it up after I beat the game, and playing this darts minigame is how you unlock more weapon slots. Zombies spawn on the roads at night, but the spawn distance is so bad, they just pop into existence right in front of your car. When the killer chases you, you get to induce stick drift on your controller by wiggling it rapidly to run away. Half of this chapter is just pressing button prompts. Then York's suit glitches out, which happens way too frequently. In this flashback scene, you sprint in a straight line for 2.5 minutes while the game repeats the same 2 lines of dialogue 5 times. Now you control Emily while you chase a dog for half an hour, and it's, boring. Glad to see some variety for a change. And I love how you're interrupted with a cutscene every minute to pad this out much longer than it needs to be. And it turns out these zombie levels weren't just in York's head because Emily sees them too. So what the hell happened in all those other areas swarming with zombies? Does nobody care that the town is infested with undead? You know what? It doesn't matter. You can just run past all these zombies. There's a boss fight here, but again, infinite ammo, so this is hardly any different from fighting a normal enemy. The next boss has 3 phases. Well, one phase that's repeated twice, and one where you just shoot his axe. These boss fights are horrible. The game saves them all until the very end, and they're all pushovers. And the second half of the game substitutes all that mindless driving with mindless walking. You get to play as the Raincoat Killer, but it's nowhere near as interesting as it should be because all you do is run through a maze. And the game's not over once the Raincoat Killer dies, because it turns out the FK in the coffee guy was the true bad guy all along. Who knew? Not like he was carrying a red tree that grows from red seeds the entire game or anything. And who the hell makes little figures of themselves and leaves them behind at a crime scene? And the hotel owner didn't think it was strange that this guy hadn't aged a single second in 50 years? And it's really cool how when I opened the door leading into the final area, the game crashed again. The final boss has 3 phases. The first phase is so easy that you have to try to get hit. The second phase has more of this garbage stick wiggling and quicktime events, and it lasts for 3 torturous minutes. And the last phase requires a lot of standing around, waiting for the boss to slam his fist down so you can finally kill him. Then you get one last driving segment the game can't resist, then cue the credits. I never thought I'd see the day. Any goodwill this game earns, and intrigue you might have in the story, is immediately undone the moment you start playing it. It incorporates elements of realism in an attempt to immerse you because the devs didn't know how to immerse you in this town any other way. You don't need realism to create an immersive experience. How do I know? Look at Metroid Prime, a game where you morph into a ball and bounce off of bombs. And that aside, you know what's more important than being immersive? Having fun. A game being more realistic does not make it more fun. You need to be thoughtful about why you're including realism. Let's look at Fallout New Vegas as an example. Hardcore mode adds realism that changes how you play the game. Stim packs don't heal instantly. They heal over time, so you can't be as reckless and expect to heal to full when you take a big hit. You can't heal crippled limbs from sleeping in a random bed. Ammo has weight. You can't just hoard thousands of rounds that you'll never use anymore. I want to be clear, I don't like hardcore mode in New Vegas, but at least you have the choice to ignore this mode. You don't have to force this realism in the game if you don't want to, because the developers acknowledge that some players might not enjoy these mechanics. Deadly Premonition doesn't give you a choice. The goal here isn't to incorporate realism in terms of player choice, it's to replicate the most tedious parts of life. Gotta drive the speed limit, fill up your car, wash your suit because it gets dirty, eat food when you get hungry, sleep when you're tired, wait for people to show up at a certain time of day. But how is any of this fun? I do these tasks in real life not because I want to, but because I have to. Why would I want to simulate doing this in a game? These are chores, meters that you manage, because the game can't stay engaging with its moment-to-moment gameplay. York is an FBI agent, so he's not going to be destroying property or killing innocent people. He's instead gathering information and analyzing crime scenes. Well, that's fine. Just make questioning people and examining evidence fun. Expand on these detective aspects instead of giving us this pathetic open world. Why throw in hours of awful zombie shooting and driving around town? Even if you pull all of the nonsensical shooting galleries out of the game, even if you fast travel everywhere, that doesn't eliminate the biggest issue. This is a mystery game shoehorned into an open world to make it more marketable. And if you want to watch Twin Peaks, just watch it. Twin Peaks isn't a video game. You can just sit back and watch all of the stupid nonsense that's happening without being forced to jerk the stick every 5 minutes. If you want to watch the cutscenes of Deadly Premonition on YouTube, fair enough. You can experience the story without suffering through the gameplay.
What movie was it?
An American Werewolf in London.
Directed by John Landis, 1981.
You can't judge the worth of this game based on the merits of its character development alone when you are forced to endure all of this awful gameplay to get to the next cutscene. And you get what you pay for here. You can grab this game for $1.24 on a Steam sale. So if you want to laugh at some low-budget trash for a few seconds before it crashes, go right ahead. But let's not pretend we've got a diamond in the rough here.